Join in with computer. All right. So now I just need to, all right. Do you see me? Oh, here it is. I have to admit you. Here we go. I'm about to admit you.
Yes, I see you now.
Awesome. So I'm gonna hang up the phone. Okay. So we're not live yet. I haven't pressed the little button that says live.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put live on Facebook, live on Workplace, my Facebook live. Okay. So let me get with my, I'm gonna have someone that's gonna help us with technical issues if we come around anything. So let me call her really quick. And then as far as the introduction, yeah, I agree. I'll be introducing you. So I printed out the Word kind of your bio that you had sent out to Jessica. And that's what I was going to just kind of make that introduction. International speaker, author of My Mother's Keeper, mental health advocate and consultant. And then we have here, I was just going to kind of read a little bit of the little bio as far as the intro, because it has amazing things here that you were highly sought after empowerment speaker with media personality. The purpose to educate and informs other about the importance of mental health.
Yeah, I just wanted to send it all to you because I didn't know what all you might want to use.
Yeah, so I think it'll be easier if I just introduce you as our international speaker, author of My Mother's Keeper, mental health advocate and consultant. And then I can just say you're an expert in the field with an MA in mental health, counseling, and PhD in leadership and education. Kind of just those first two paragraphs, you have 25 years of experience in both the mental health and education fields. And you serve as an educator, mental health therapist, associate, director of education, and campus director. I think that would be good. And then I'm going to go into, I'm going to print out the kind of little questions that we kind of talked about as far as just that information.
Okay.
And I think we should be good.
Sounds
So
good.
let me print that out.
So do you know when the other people are logging in, it's asking them for a password and username? Or once they're in, you just
So,
let them in?
well, we don't want to let them in into our little box here. They can just watch through the link that I sent. And all they do is register, if that makes sense.
Right. That's what I'm explaining. The
Yeah.
link
So
yeah,
so
link
the link that I send you, which is the one that's on the flyer. Let me make sure, which is the
right. So what I'm explaining is the link that's on the flyer. I have quite a few people who have gone and registered with that. They got an email back. It seems like it's the same email that I got back from Jessica McDaniel, and it's a Zoom link. And so they are now logging into the Zoom link and they're asking for a username and password.
Got it. All right. So that would be a technical question. So let me get with our Zoom person that helps us here. She hasn't been on any of the Facebook talks. Let me call her right now and just kind of troubleshoot that to make sure that the link that I was told, which is on the flyer for people to view,
Right.
is that link. So 1 second, let me call it Dee Dee really quick and add her as a host, a co-host. Yeah, because we don't want them to join our conversation. We just want them to watch.
Right. Yeah. The way that they're explaining to it, it sounds like the same exact thing that.
Hey, it's Carmen. Hi, Carmen. Hey, so I have Dr. Sheila here with, we just have a question for the Tuesday talk. So the link that I was told, Jessica said the link that's on our flyer, which is basically kind of the viewing link that anyone can click on that link or add that link and basically just watch the Zoom. or the Tuesday talk. So what's happening is they're clicking on that link and it's asking them for a password. And I'm assuming that I don't want them to join and be part of the Tuesday talk. We just want them to be viewers.
No, there were two channels through which someone could participate in a Tuesday talk. One was as a passive participant watching on Facebook Live because the Zoom is broadcast to Facebook Live. But the second is actually in Zoom with the speaker. And we've enjoyed maintaining the intimacy and, you know, there's a certain crowd of folks that love kind of joining in on Zoom. So that's why there's two channels there. And so there is a Zoom link for someone to enter as a participant.
Okay, so we don't want them to enter as a participant. I'm trying to give the right link to Dr. Sheila as far as just people viewing the live, if that makes sense.
That is going to be a problem because people saw the link on the flyer and that's how they registered. So now I don't know. I mean, I posted it on my LinkedIn with.
Yeah, I think it's so Aditi, as far as the link, which is the traditional link that's been on the flyer, that's just the link that everyone's been using to view it. And they're asking them to basically register. How do we just get those people to just watch it? Once we go live, would they watch it? Would they be able to register and just watch it?
The registration is for Zoom and going live is for Facebook. So those things don't talk to each other at all, which is why we've always had two ways people can participate. So at this 11th hour, what I would recommend is just to let people continue to do what they've done, which is register and join in on Zoom.
Okay.
And there's one group of people who enjoy doing that, and there's another group of people who follow us on Facebook and know to watch live, but they don't, you know, those two people may not be the same person, and someone who's familiar with Zoom in the community may not be familiar with Facebook Live. And more importantly, there is no one channel we have right now.
Okay.
To broadcast the Facebook Live link to anyone who has registered. That is a process that would take at least like 20 minutes, you know, because it's not automatic.
Yeah, I'm just going by what I was told with the link. Okay, so just to make it clear then, Dr. Sheila, we'll just give that password and people just view it. It'll still be me and you. It'll just be other people just viewing it through Zoom. But that's what it is. And then the other people, they'll just be on there watching it. And then if they have questions, then they can join as well.
Okay. Do you want to because I've done a million of these. So typically if I have someone on Zoom, I use the chat. I ask them to type their questions in the chat.
I have Aditi. She's going to be co-host, so she's going to.
Yeah. So they're not all talking at the same time. What's exactly. What is the username and password again?
All right, I'm getting it right now.
So, Carmen, I'm also gonna text you. I'm gonna text you a Bitly link. This Bitly, I'll email it. What do you have easiest access to, Carmen?
I have the Bitly link.
I just emailed you a Bitly link.
Okay.
This link, if you send that link to anybody, they don't need a password or a meeting ID to enter.
Okay, so
register, they go to that link, they register for today's meeting. It's a 1-second process, and they're sent a link. They just click to enter.
Okay, send me that then, and I'll send that to Dr. Sheila's guest.
You should take care of. If anyone who wants to join us in a few minutes gets that link, they should be able to join us in the Zoom platform.
Okay, so Dr. Sheila, I'll send you this Bitly link. Is basically send that to your participants. All they do is click on it, register, and they'll be able to view it. They don't have to go through the Zoom and all that.
Okay, because I don't know who has done that. I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? I posted it to over 50,000 people. So I don't know.
All right, I'll send you both ways. So that way we just
yeah, I'm just gonna post it on my page.
So I just send you right now the Zoom, the Bitly Tuesday talks. That's just normal. Anyone can see it. And then I'm also just going to give you the password for the other, and we'll have both ways. So that way it's
okay.
It's
that's great. So
yeah.
Both ways option is
both ways is fine.
Yes.
Okay. you in Zoom right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I'll be right there.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we
So
got.
did you email it to me or did you?
I just emailed it to you,
Okay,
which is the bit.ly link,
okay.
and you just click on it and register.
Yes, this is the one that's posted on the flyer.
Correct.
Right.
That's the one that anyone can just watch.
Okay, so they don't need a username and password?
No.
I
They
don't know
register
what you're
just
asking me.
they just normally register, and then they don't need anything. So right now we have 5 people that are
Okay.
waiting. I'm gonna let them in the viewing room. They don't need anything. The Zoom link that me and you, if you share this Zoom link that me and you are on, I can let them in the room and they can just view. And then the other people with the bit.ly is just through Facebook Live.
Okay.
So let me do that really quick. All right. We'll go live in 1 minute. Aditi, do you want me to just click now where it says live on Facebook?
That's right. You would just you should click through. That's correct. Dr. Williams, it's so wonderful to meet you. Thank
Nice
you for
to meet
your
you
time.
too. Thank you for your help. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh,
Hello, Neil. How are
gratitude
you?
from our side.
Good to see you.
Yay, there you go. That's me.
Yes, it's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
And then Carmen, a gentle reminder.
And you know, these talks go 2 ways, right? They go to Facebook Live and to Zoom. So sometimes when I look at the screen here and I say, oh my gosh, there's hardly anybody here on Zoom, then we get the count afterwards for how many people are tuned in. So we'll get that for you. So
Sounds good. Thank you.
And then Carmen, a gentle reminder to make me co-host, then I can monitor the entries for you.
Okay, let's do that. Make co-host.
Oh no, that's somebody else. That's Tuesday Talk with Nami.
Oh, I thought that was you under the.
I'm under. You should see me.
I gotcha. I'm not sure who the other one is. All right, so I think we're good. I have everyone on mute. I think we're live on Facebook now.
dip in.
All right. Go live. Are you ready, Dr. Sheila? I think we're
I am ready.
now.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. We are going live. All right, it's preparing. Okay, for some reason is on. It's not going on the NAMI Greater Houston page. It's going on my personal page, which we don't want that. Let's see. How would I switch that, Aditi? Do you know?
Yes. When it first asks you to share, there's a drop down and it allows you to choose share on my personal page, or in that drop down will be included pages you are an administrator of. So it in that drop down you should see um, you will have to close this process and start the process
I
over.
did. I closed it and it just says live on Facebook, live on Workplace, live on YouTube.
So go ahead and click live on Facebook, and then the very next screen, and then let it do its pop-up thing. And then the very next screen you see should give you a choice in a drop down of whether you want to go live as yourself or on behalf of NAMI Greater Houston.
Got it. Thank you so much. I got it. All right. Got it now. All right. We're getting it now. Perfect. We are on the NAMI Houston page, counting down. Perfect. There we go. There we go. Go live. I'm double checking our Dr. Sheila Facebook page to make sure that we're good.
Okay.
Just to cross-reference that we're live. There we go. We are live. We are live. Just looking through my page now. Dr. Sheila, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Today we are on our last month Tuesday Talks on behalf of NAMI Greater Houston. I'm Carmen Martinez, and we have a very special guest today that it's wonderful to have her. She is Dr. Sheila Williams, international speaker, author of My Mother's Keeper. She's a mental health advocate and consultant. Dr. Sheila Williams is an expert in her field. She has been with a mental health counseling, has a PhD in leadership and education. She has extensive background in education, counseling, training, and executive management. Over 25 years of experience in both mental health and educational fields. Dr. Williams has served as an educator, a mental health therapist, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Director of Education, and Campus Director. What an amazing list. Thank you so much for having us here on our Tuesday Talk. So I always like to begin, just tell us a little bit about yourself and definitely dig into how did you become an author?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, everyone who has joined us and is tuned in right now. The author just came from me being a writer. I've always written. I loved writing poems. I always kept a journal. And then when I became a counselor, a therapist, and I got into the mental health field, I often would tell my clients to journal because it's very therapeutic to journal. And I just, took my own medicine. And through journaling throughout the years, when my mother was diagnosed with clinical depression, I started to journal even more. So it was a very long journey to my mother being diagnosed with clinical depression. But then later she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And being her primary caregiver, I often found it, again, very therapeutic for myself to journal, because I, for whatever reason, even though I served as a therapist, I often found that I did not confide in very many people because I didn't want to burden people with my own problems. And so through journaling, eventually God laid it upon my heart to tell my story and to give my mother a voice, because she always felt as if she didn't matter and as if she didn't have a voice. So I took part of my journal and I turned it into the memoir, My Mother's Keeper. So that's how the book came to fruition.
That's an amazing story. How did you come about as far as being vulnerable with sharing? It's tough to share with family members and kind of the public, especially intimate items like that when it comes to mental health. What gave you the strength to kind of become vulnerable in opening and your words within this book? What kind of helped you go through that process?
You know, I always tell people we have to be honest first with ourselves. And I honestly, I felt quite hypocritical to some point, because I was often telling my clients that they had to be, honest with themselves and to advocate for themselves, and to be okay with not being okay. And so I honestly felt kind of hypocritical not telling this piece about my life, a very integral piece of my life. No one knew that my mother suffered from a mental illness. No one knew that I had a therapist. No one knew any of this. So at times I felt hugely hypocritical not being transparent about this integral piece of my life. But again, at the same time, it wasn't just about me, it's also about my mother. So I felt obligated to make sure that I did not disclose anything. Obviously, confidentiality goes beyond just being in the office. Confidentiality as far as family and friends is important as well. So with my mother, she was a very private person, very much an introvert, very private. The things that happened in the family home were supposed to stay in the family home. But the reason why it was okay for me to finally tell her story and to tell this integral piece of my life was right before she passed away. She said to me, I know you want to write this book. You've talked about it before. Now that, she was on hospice at that point, now that she knew she was not going to be here anymore, it was okay at that point. She felt safe for me to go ahead and tell her story. So she gave me the go ahead. And even though she passed in 2012, it was another 2 years before I published the book, because I wanted to pray on it, and I wanted to make sure that it was still the right thing to do.
That was beautiful. Her blessing to share that those intimate details, and it took you a couple years to even come to that term of writing as much as you wanted to write in your book. So let me ask you this: as far as can you walk us through the process in those 2 years? What made you did you want to become more vulnerable into sharing everything? What were some of the process steps into just kind of finalizing and outlining the book?
Yeah, definitely. The book is not only a memoir, it's a bit of an autobiography as well. So I chronologically take the reader from the time that I was about 5 years old up until the point where my mother passed away. So there were pieces of the book that I essentially eliminated. I took out because it was a bit too personal, I would say, for the time and for this particular book. Not to say that I will not write about those things in the future, because perhaps I will. But the process of the 2 years was just refining some of the information that was in the book, and to make sure that it kind of chronologically flowed the way that I wanted it to. And then in such, making sure that my prayer was specific, because I wanted the book to reach a target audience.
Right.
And that target audience was simply whomever it needs to meet, whomever needs to read this book, whomever needs to be touched by the words that I'm writing. And that was my specific prayer, was that everything that I do, most people that know me and know me very intimately, very close friends, very close family, know that everything that I do is with purpose. And with purpose, I try my best to leave you with something that I say or an experience that's going to be positive, that you will remember something that I say or something that I do, even if it's 10 years from now. So I want to leave a positive imprint upon those who read the book, to know that you are not alone, whether you are a caregiver of a loved one, whether you yourself are experiencing a mental illness, whether you have, as so many have come to me and said, experiencing a hardship, whether it's bankruptcy, whether it's divorce, whether it's family discourse, whatever it is, I want individuals to be touched in a positive way, to know that they are not alone. So that was my prayer, was that this book touch people in a positive way, that they feel that they are a part of a connection, because that's what I feel ultimately, that we are all connected. And when we realize that we are not an individual who is only going through this and no one else is experiencing this, then I feel that there is strength in knowing that, because then you realize that you're not by yourself. You're not the only one who's going through a divorce, or who has been laid off, or who is having a difficult time with their children, or who perhaps is dealing with a mental illness. So that was the 2-year time frame and what I went through.
Right, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. As far as, yourself being a mental health advocate and having that experience within your own family, your mother sharing this, what would you tell other individuals that maybe haven't come to terms with being open and being acceptance of, that condition that a loved one may have? Give us some pointers as far as what would you advise to someone, or just some healing words to help, kind of overcome that challenge at that point of just accepting that someone has a mental illness within your family or a close loved one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing is just to realize that um, you love your loved ones, whether it's a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, someone that you go to church with. You love them, and we should love each other unconditionally. So, regardless of whether or not that individual has a mental illness or not, we have to come to terms with, okay, if I truly love this person, I love them whether or not they have an alcohol addiction. I love them whether or not they have a mental illness. They're bipolar. They're suffering from PTSD, depression. I love them, whether or not they just filed bankruptcy. I love them. So I love this individual through these challenges, and hopefully they love me just the same in return. But when we love each other, we truly can hopefully open up to say that I am here for you. That does not necessarily mean that I have all of the answers. It does not necessarily mean that I can fix your problems, but that means that I'm here for you. So if that means that I drive you to your AA meetings because you just simply want me there to help you with that experience. I can't heal you. I cannot give you I can't get you out of your bankruptcy, but maybe I can just be a listening ear. Perhaps some of the experiences that you're going through are similar to some of the things that I've experienced myself. And I can be a listening ear, or I can share my own experiences. But definitely when it comes to an individual who is perhaps suffering from a mental illness, let that person know that you love them. Let them know that you care, you're there unconditionally for them. And I think that when we realize that we have those friends, those family members that love us unconditionally, then that allows us to be more vulnerable to say, I didn't get out of bed today. They will start to disclose things to you, perhaps that they don't disclose to others. And then in knowing that they can rely on you, maybe they will say, "Can you take me to the doctor because I'm afraid to go alone?"
So going back, yeah, those are very powerful and encouraging words. Something that you said earlier, as far as when you say it's okay to not be okay. I think people are afraid to ask for help. What would be some other encouraging kind of ways that you can pull that ask from that other individual? If they say, let me know if you need anything, I'm here for you. What would be another extra step as us trying to help and being in this mental health advocate field, as far as just helping other individuals to go that extra step to ask for help? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think that I'm glad that you asked that question, because you often hear people say, "Hey, let me know if you need anything." And that's great that people say that, but 9 times out of 10, that person is not going to reach out. They're not going to say, "Hey, I'm having a difficult time caring for my kids." You have to keep your eyes and ears open. Definitely, if you're close to this person and you see some things that are out of the norm, then it's not a rude way or an insensitive way of calling it to their attention. Then you would just say, like, "Is everything okay? I noticed that with your children, you're not playing with them as much as you used to. Is something that I can help? I'll be happy to come over and help you with your kids," or whatever it is. I think you want to be specific in the ways in which you can help that individual. If you have a friend or a loved one that is not as social as they used to be, you specifically want to say that, "Hey, you used to hang out with me a little bit more. You used to call me. I don't hear from you. Is everything okay? Can I come over? Is there something that you need me to do?" And if you're really close with that person, it's a family member, you may just need to show up. I have had, since COVID has happened, I have had to be that person that's calling and texting, like, I haven't heard from you. Where are you? Unfortunately, I've lost quite a few people to COVID-19, and it has put me on alert. Like, if I don't hear from this person, I don't see them on social media, they're not texting, they're not calling, we're not FaceTiming, where are you? So I think that if we just take a little bit of time to just reach out and to connect with one another and to make sure that, you know, our loved ones are okay, whether that be emotionally, whether that be, you know, just going through COVID, whether or not they're dealing with a mental illness or not. Maybe it's a financial situation that they're going through, which we see a lot of people are experiencing hardships in one way or another right now. So it's important to be specific and to ask those important questions.
I love that you mentioned as far as just taking action, because that might be the only way sometimes to get that response. And I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of pinpoint, you know, like what you were saying, I don't see you doing those things, or you used to talk, or you used to call me. And the person trying to ask for help might not even realize that they're coming across like, wow, I'm really showing that. So it's very important to take that action and to just show up, or to just bring it up to that person's attention. And I think once that action is made, maybe the first time, it might take a couple of times, then that person might say, hey, you know what, that person is going to be there. And sometimes you might just take that action to show up and listen. Can you share a little bit as far as just the importance of listening? You might not even, they might not need anything, but just, hey, I'm here, I showed up. What would be some of the engagement questions that you can just be there for someone and just engage in listening?
Oh my goodness. I think back first, the first person that comes to mind is my mother, because her mental illness, her clinical depression went undiagnosed and misdiagnosed for over 20 years. So throughout my childhood and part of my young adult years, her mental illness was not diagnosed. So I did not know what my family, none of us knew what was going on or what was, quote unquote, wrong with my mother. But she did not, if you read the book or if you knew my mom, she did not speak very much at all. Kind of the opposite of me. I'm very talkative. She did not speak very much at all. And the only way that you were going to get close to her is to look past that. And when I say look past that, sometimes you'd have to just sit with her in silence. And her seeing you just sit there
Right.
would let her know that, okay, she actually cares to just sit here because I'm not talking to her. And so I would sit with her for not for minutes, but for hours at a time. And in those hours, I would ask her, is it too cold in here? Is it too hot? Do you want a drink of water? And eventually she'd look at me like, you're not going away, are you? No, I'm not. So it's just very important to be present with our loved ones, to be present with the individual, to basically let them know, like, I am here. So perhaps they won't even ask for anything specific. They just want to know that you are there. So I've had close friends, I've had close relatives, I've even had clients who may not specifically say what it is that they need. Sometimes they don't even know what it is that they need. But what we all need is to know that we are loved. And although, again, as I stated before, we may not be able to fix whatever is wrong, letting the individual know that you are there, that you care, and that you are accessible is important. I've been in a room with people, they are physically there, but they're not there.
Right.
So if you're there, but you're on your phone, if you're there and your mind is elsewhere, you're really not there. And I find that a lot of people don't realize that. Well, I'm here. Yeah, you're there, but you're strolling through your social media, you're texting back and forth, you're
Right.
constantly on your phone, or you're elsewhere. Perhaps
Present. Right.
you're not present. And we can sense that. We have the human capability of sensing whether or not the person is really in tune. So be present and let the individual know that you are there unconditionally.
That's definitely a very a very loving point. To words are so powerful, and the fact to just say, I'm here, you're loved, those can go a long way. I love the fact that you're saying, I just sat there next to my mother. My mom lives with me, and I'm her caregiver. And I know when she is in the mood to talk. I'm not a morning person. I just wake up and I start talking after 10 a.m. but I'm there. So sometimes when I'm bringing her to the doctor's office, sometimes we have to be there really early. She knows that's the time to catch me to talk, and I just let her. And sometimes, I'm just like, that I don't like to talk in the morning, but I just let her talk, and she'll have her list. Like if it's a 20-minute ride to the airport or 30 minutes or an hour, I just let her talk, and then mental note, I'm like, all right, later on I'm going to recap and all this stuff. So I love the fact that you say you just sat there next to your mother, because that goes a very long way. But as caregivers ourselves, I definitely want you to touch on the importance of self-caring. I'm sure you dealt with a lot with just helping your mother and just being there for her. But talk to us a little bit about just the importance of taking care of yourself and how that is important for your own mental health.
Oh my goodness, yes. I had taken care of my mother for so long. It was a lifelong responsibility because, as I stated in my book, even at the young age of 5 and 6 and 7 years old, when you have a mother who, again, is physically present, but mentally and emotionally, because of an undiagnosed mental illness, she was not able to care for me in the traditional sense at times that a mother who is not dealing with a mental illness, or perhaps is dealing with a mental illness, but it's being appropriately treated. So if you can imagine a mother who is dealing with very severe clinical depression that is untreated with a very small child, and the responsibility of caring for that small child, I knew that she loved me. There was never a doubt in my mind that she did not love me, but I knew that something was not quite right, and she did as well. And she was quite perplexed with the fact that she wanted to care for me, but emotionally, in which later made her physically, because sometimes our mental illnesses show up as physical ailments, and that is the case is what happened with her. So with me experiencing that as a young child, and then obviously later as an adult, first and foremost, my mental well-being was first and foremost on my list. So as a therapist, I've always had a therapist. So even through COVID-19, I have reached out and had therapy, because it is very stressful to go through, obviously, this pandemic that has affected all of us in one way or another. So I felt the need, I felt my anxiety, resurfacing. So I'm being very transparent here with you, because that's the only way I know how to be.
Right.
So many people who are experiencing anxiety and they don't know how to deal with it. So rather than allow my anxiety to get out of control, I personally reached out to my therapist, and she's like, Sheila, you're doing just fine. But it's very important for us to get those wellness checks and to not be afraid to reach out to someone to just make sure that we're okay. And if you are okay, then continue doing what you're doing. And then that way you can help someone else. But we cannot care as you're caring for your mother. You can't care for anyone else if you don't take time to care for yourself. So not only mentally and emotionally, but it's imperative that we physically care for ourselves, because we may start to experience headaches or insomnia. So many of my clients experience insomnia when they're going through stressful situations. You name it, from one extreme to the other, it can manifest itself as a physical ailment. So it's very important for us to take care of ourselves from one aspect to the other. Oftentimes we focus on the financial well-being and the financial state of ourselves and our families. That's great. But if you are physically and emotionally a wreck, finances are going to go out of the window as well, because you're not caring for yourself. So you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
Right. And it's a good thing that you mentioned as far as the physical part of taking care of yourself. I think a lot of people forget the connection of your physical and your mental, even right now with COVID, that we've been, trapped in our homes, or don't feel comfortable being out. One thing I started doing, as far as just realizing myself, just that anxiety and that worry, and sometimes I would just worry just to worry.
Yeah.
Like nothing to worry, but I guess that's what's going on right now. Just
Right.
the importance of just walking, even if it's around your neighborhood. That physical activity does so much, even if it's 20, 15, 10 minutes, in the morning.
Right.
um One thing I started doing, as far as a physical activity to help me relax in the morning, one of my friends is teaching me to relax a little bit more, is breathing, the breathing component, and how breathing is important with your stomach, and your food that you intake throughout the day. So I know a lot of us kind of get up and go, but that's one technique that I have used to just 2 minutes. She said 2 minutes, put your little alarm there and do breathing techniques for every 2 minutes. I've only done it for a week and a half now, but I feel myself like, okay, don't just get up and go. That's just going to be kind of a little bit relaxing technique for my mental health throughout the day. So, one thing I wanted to kind of see if you could share with us, give me some of your kind of daily techniques and daily activities that you've done that has helped you. And then, second question before I forget, you mentioned you being a therapist yourself, have a therapist. If
Yes.
you can share the importance of just kind of the negative stigma, besides when someone says, I need to see a therapist, it might not even mean that you're clinically diagnosed with something, but it's more about just your mental health and self-care. Can you share a little bit about that once you're done with that?
Yes. Yes, definitely. So first and foremost, I get up every morning at 4:45 a.m. No, I don't have to get up at 4:45 a.m., but it's a process for me. And I have to take time. I don't like being rushed. That bothers me. I don't work well with being rushed because, as I just stated a few minutes ago, at times suffer from anxiety. So in order for me to control my anxiety, I have to have time. Things have to be planned out for me. And I have to have time to get my breakfast together. I have to have time to meditate. So when I get up in the morning, I like a quiet time, typically 30, sometimes 45 minutes for me. And through my meditation and prayer, first thing in the morning, it sets the tone, it sets the mood for my day. And I notice at times when I don't pray and meditate, I could be doing this, in the bedroom. I could do it in the living room, the kitchen. It just has to be a quiet space, even if it's in the bathroom. I just have to make sure that I have a quiet space to do that for 30 to 45 minutes every morning. And I just use the time to pray and I give thanks. Obviously, it's a personal prayer between me and God. But in a nutshell, it's number one to give thanks for another day and an opportunity to be a positive influence on someone's life. And then the meditation is to find my centerpiece, to have that calm. And I try to make sure that I carry that calm throughout the day. If you know me, you know that I am a strong advocate for peace. And so the peace is not only the way in which I communicate with others, but I self advocate for myself the way in which others communicate with me. So the piece is very important for me. So that's pretty much it. I start the day after the 45 minutes or maybe even an hour of prayer and meditation. And then from there, it's the hustle and bustle of the day. But the same way that I start the day is the same day that I end the day as well through prayer and meditation. Again, it's a quiet time, whether it's in the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom, outside, I don't care. Give me 30, 45 minutes, or maybe even an hour of quiet time for me to be present with God and for me to be present in a moment with myself. And it brings me down. It brings me, when I say down, it brings me to closure for the day before I try to, go to sleep. Because if my mind is still racing about the day and I have all of these things still on my mind, I find that I don't sleep very well. So I have to, bring it down, meditate down, and pray over the day and the experiences that I've had. So that's pretty much a day um, in Dr. Sheila. So to remind me again, Carmen, what was the second half of your
The
question?
second question was when you said being a therapist myself and I have a therapist,
Yes.
the importance of just having someone to talk to, a professional person to talk to, and why the negative stigma of when you say, oh, I need a therapist, that people kind of just think negative when it comes to just seeking help and seeking to talk to someone, and the importance of just having that person, that go-to
Yes.
individual.
Yes, definitely. Again, thank you for the question. I feel that um, there's always been this stigma around, you know, getting help, therapy, seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist, or mental health professional. There's a stigma, especially in Black and Brown communities. For whatever reason, it's like so taboo. But again, I think it's definitely a blessing. I would not have changed my life at all. I would not have changed the mother that I have. I thank God for the experiences that I had, because I feel like I was at this awakening moment. Like now there's this talk about therapy. It's okay to not be okay, and it's like kind of fashionable. For some, they talk about therapy like it's the end thing to do. But wait a minute, like 30 years ago, I was telling people that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be transparent. It's okay to have a mental illness, because it was my life. And I lived this experience my entire life. So it's never been taboo for me. I've never been ashamed of seeing a therapist, because of being raised by a mother with a mental illness. I saw how it can be very detrimental, not only on the individual, but the entire family. It can cause dysfunction if it's not appropriately, addressed. So for me, I have been kind of like the outlier, where everyone thought it may have been taboo. It has never been taboo for me whatsoever. So I've always been in a space that whatever is healthy for me, whatever is going to bring me peace, whatever is going to allow me to live it 100% in the true being of who I am, to be in my true purpose and my God-given purpose, that's what I need to do. And so I can't care for others. I cannot care for my family and my loved ones. I can't be the person that God ultimately wants me to be if I don't care for myself. And for me, that means to make sure that physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, that I am healthy. And so with that, I keep a therapist. And sometimes that means that I just do a check-in. It's a wellness check.
Right.
Maybe it's just 1 or 2 sessions. Maybe it's 16 sessions. Whatever needs to be done, needs to be done. And you can't be overly concerned about what other people think about you getting the help that you need. So just as we would go and see a medical doctor if we have high blood pressure or diabetes, there should not be any issue, concern, or reservation for seeing a therapist when or if we needed to see one.
So on that note, can you just share what would if I'm completely new and I need a therapist, let's just say I just need someone to talk to as far as just anxiety. My primary doctor has given me medication for anxiety or whatever that may be. What would be some of the kind of top 3 questions that you might ask a therapist or seek a therapist? What would someone that's never had a therapist before be looking out for or
Um,
should look for?
I would say first and foremost, you kind of want to find an individual that you feel comfortable with. Some people feel more comfortable with a male or a female. Maybe they want a certain you know demographic. If you feel more comfortable with that, then that's the type. That's the individual that you want to seek out, whether male, female, young, old, black, white, whatever. And then from there, once you narrow that down, you want to ask those things that are important to you, such as, are you going to ask me about, sometimes people ask questions about your childhood. If you don't feel comfortable disclosing that right away, you kind of want to be upfront about that. What are some of the things you're going to ask me? What are some of the things you want to know? What is it that we're going to address in therapy? I don't want to take medication. Are you going to put me on medication? So these are some of the reservations that some people have. And be honest. Like, I don't want to talk about my childhood. I don't want you trying to put me on medication because I'm not doing it. Okay. So if you're adamant about certain things, then you say that. And maybe even disclose why. I don't want to talk about my childhood because it's very painful for me. It's not something I want to address right now. But I am having these headaches, and I'm having a hard time getting out of bed, going to work every day, or I'm going through a divorce right now. It's very difficult for me, or I just went through a bankruptcy and I don't know how to get back on my feet. It's really stressing me out. And that's what I want to focus on. I don't want to talk about what happened to me when I was 7, because that don't have nothing to do with my bankruptcy. But I do need to talk about, how to get my life back together. So be honest and
Right.
find someone that you feel comfortable with. And if for whatever reason you begin therapy and you don't feel comfortable with this person later on, like, this isn't working out, don't be afraid to say, like, this isn't working out. With all due respect, I respect you, but this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And don't just stop there. Find the next person that's going to, or ask them to refer you to someone, or you do the work to find the person that you feel most comfortable with.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned that because it is important to feel to get someone that you connect with. I know the very popular show that a lot of people watch, This Is Us on NBC. They cover the importance of one of the male characters going to a therapist,
Mhm.
and he had been seeing this therapist couple of episodes, since last season, and he felt that connection because it wasn't someone that was from his own culture and his own background, and being people of color, it's hard to kind of find that connection and feel that you can open up. So he did
Right.
exactly that. He was a little nervous on the show to say, you're great, but I feel more comfortable with someone that's the same color of my skin. And they said that on the couple episodes ago. And I'm glad that they show that, because that show is watched by so many, as far as just the importance that you have to feel comfortable and you have to feel that at peace to be sitting there and to be sharing all these personal informations that you want to share. So I'm glad that you brought that up, as far as just, hey, if it's not working, it's okay. You got to find the right one for you.
You have to, because you went to this person for help, and if you don't feel comfortable, you're not gonna feel comfortable opening up. So it's very important.
So, yourself have been a mental health advocate for so long. Tell us exactly, why do you feel it's important, even nowadays, with everything that we're experiencing in our world, as far as advocating for mental health in our community? Why is that so important, even now and moving forward? What should we be um, passionate about with that topic?
Well, I think that for so long we have overlooked the mental health component of our lives. We see that we have not gotten, it's not working for us to ignore that there are individuals who suffer from a mental illness. There are individuals who may have certain stressors at certain points in their lives. May not even be a mental illness, but there are certain stressors or things that they're dealing with at that time that they need therapy, not necessarily always medication. Oftentimes, when people think of treatment, they think of medication. And I want to dispel that myth that it's not always medication. Perhaps it's just the disclosing and talking and getting those things off of your chest. You mentioned earlier the component of being able to have certain breathing techniques. There are a lot of people who suffer from anxiety and are experiencing, panic attacks. And again, not necessarily medication is needed, but having those techniques that's going to allow you to be able to function and be productive from day to day. So when we take a look at mental health. It's something that we not only address for ourselves individually. I think it's also important for us to realize that we work as a unit, not only with our families, but as a community. It's important for us to remember that we are our brother's keeper, we are our sister's keeper. The title of my book is My Mother's Keeper, and I wrote it with that title for a reason. Although the book is primarily about me caring for my mother, I want people to understand that it's not just about us. We as individuals, we are much more productive when we work to not only help ourselves to advance, but also those around us. So when we work as a community, when we work as a society, when we work as a nation, caring for and looking out for one another, we can then be even more productive. So it does me no good if I am the only one in my family who is doing well and everyone else is struggling and having a very difficult time. I don't find myself successful at all. If my friend, my member, my sorority sisters, my loved ones are not doing well, if I can provide information or support or assistance in any way that's going to help my fellow, my fellow person, why would I not? So I find that being a mental health advocate is just that. When we see people in our community that are hurting, literally struggling because they are suffering mentally and emotionally, it's very hypocritical for us to drive off in nice cars and live in nice homes, but we have people who are struggling mentally and emotionally and not able to care for themselves or their families because of those mental illnesses. It's not fair for us to, it's not right, in my opinion, to see so many homeless people because they're homeless because their mental illnesses have not been addressed. Um,
Right.
to know that we have so many people incarcerated because they perhaps would not have committed that crime if their mental illnesses had been addressed. And the same for drug addiction as well, drug and alcohol. So when we see these things happening, I feel that it is our responsibility to help out in some form or fashion. Of course, some of us are in more of a position where we can do more, or the way in which I help may be a little bit different in the way in which you help, Carmen. So, but we have a means and a responsibility, in my opinion, to not only uh, advance and to care for our own well-being, but for those within our community as well. And to me, that's what mental health advocacy is all about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Before we jumped on, and I had just met you last week via email. The staff here and just our members here, you're part of our NAMI community. You're part of our NAMI kind of individual that is very vocal and very passionate as far as mental health and everything you've experienced. So we definitely appreciate that, and having someone like you to be able to kind of keep that passion going. Just like what you mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be kind of just that negative stigma. It's really about resilience and hope and positivity, because mental health is something that really affects every individual. There's no age range, there's no color, there's no barrier. It's everyone.
Every-
I definitely appreciate that. So let's go back and talk about this wonderful My Mother's Keeper. Let's tell the viewers, where can we get that? Where can we purchase this? Where can we kind of get it and get it for to share more of your story and kind of read more of your story? Where can we purchase that?
Yeah, for sure. The book is everywhere. You can go to my website, www.drsheiladwilliams.com. For more information about me. There's also a link on there to click to instantly get to the connection to purchase the book. It is available on Amazon as well, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Walmart.com, Target.com,
It's
Christian.
everywhere.
It's everywhere, which
Awesome.
is a huge blessing. I thank God for that. And it's been several years now since I published the book, but it is still being sold everywhere, domestically and internationally. So yeah, so you can go to my website, or you can go to any of those book sale or retail outlets to get the book as well.
And we'll share that information also in our social platform, the links to your website and where you can get that book. Talking about the title, My Mother's Keeper. Um, my my best friend had completed suicide almost 10 years ago, and I actually, part of journaling, wrote a book myself. And the title took me, I co-wrote it with her and her sister. And I want to talk about the title, My Mother's Keeper, because I know that's something I experienced when I was writing that, as far as the title and what it meant. And we know that you were your mother's keeper, but talk to me a little bit as far as finalizing, this is it. This is what I want the cover of my title to be of my book.
Yes. I thought about several different titles, and I won't even lie to you. The title of the book came before I actually decided to write the book. And for many years, some of my closest friends, who knew, no one actually knew completely what I was experiencing, because I couldn't disclose, because of my mom's privacy. But for those who knew that I was caring for my mom, and they would see me, work and travel back and forth, and be taking her to the doctor and back and forth. She'd be in and out of the hospital. It was very challenging. And for my closest friends who experienced some of that with me, they would say, "You need to write a book. Like, someone needs to know what it is that you have experienced." And so I kept hearing that. And, in a dream, it came to me, My Mother's Keeper. And so I said, essentially, that's what I have been for my entire life, is my mother's keeper. So it kind of just hit me one day. And I said, okay, if and or when I ever write this book that everyone's telling me to write, and that I really feel that God has laid upon me a responsibility, um, if and when I do write this is what the title will be. And so I kind of went around with a couple other titles, and I was like, no, why would I do that when I feel very strongly that this is what it's supposed to be?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, because I can sense the presence of your faith with God speaking through you, not only throughout the process, but through kind of the final steps. And even now, I can definitely tell that that has helped you with healing and just kind of sharing your story, and continue to
Yeah,
be advocate on our topic of mental health. So that's very, very powerful, very motivational, because I think once you kind of hear other people, it helps other people kind of come to terms and kind of get that help that they may need.
yes.
Even just sharing that story, it's very powerful. So I think that's wonderful. I'm gonna look forward to reading this book and sharing more of the wonderful, wonderful things your mother sounds that she did and shared.
Yes.
So
Yes. And it was so important for me because, again, I mean, obviously she was my mother, so I'm a bit biased, but I just thought she was this beautiful person, both inside and out. But she never, because of her depression, and because, she never felt like she fit in, she didn't see that beauty. And I feel that, it's important for us to not only tell our story, but to encourage others to tell their stories as well. I feel that it's important for us to know that we can be transparent. Perhaps you don't need to write a book for the world to know your business, but to be transparent, first with yourself, because I feel that I always say that there is hope and there is healing in being transparent. So transparency is so powerful. When you are transparent first with yourself, and then if you are comfortable with being transparent with, whether it be a therapist or a family member or a loved one, it is so powerful. It is strengthening. It is just, I feel that it really takes a load off of your shoulders to be transparent, to be able to say, like, this is what I'm experiencing, or this is how I feel. And so if we can get people to understand that we all, as you stated before, we all have mental health, mental illness affects every single one of us, some way, some form, some fashion. I feel that we will be stronger as a people, and we will grow as a people. We will see this nation grow as a people if we're more accepting of one another. I feel that this nation will grow. Again, we individually, we as a community, and we as a nation as well.
And that's what we want. We want growth. We want to grow from, the negative stigma, making it a positive message. And all we can do is grow. So as we wrap things up, I would love for you to share just one story, anything you would like to share with either from the book or just something that you, looking back, that brought you a smile or brought you laughter as you're driving around and you think of your mother. Share just one snippet so we can learn a little bit of those beautiful stories that you might have.
Okay. Well, it's probably one from when I was much, much younger. Many people did not know this about my mom. She loved to sing and dance. Even though she was not a woman of very many words, she loved music. And that was kind of passed on to me. So we always had music playing in our home, not at a very loud volume. She didn't like a lot of noise, but we always had music. We had the old stereo with the 8 track, and we had the record player. I think everyone had that. If you were, I'm not even going to age myself, but born before the 80s, let's just say that. So we had the stereo with the 8 track and the record player, and Al Green was one of her favorites. She and my dad loved Al Green. Of course, they love gospel music as well, but every now and then they put the Al Green on. And my mom, I could remember her in it's the 70s. I could remember her in the halter tops and the bell bottoms. And she had this little sing and song and dance. I kind of talk about it a little bit in the book, where she would do this little sing and song and dance thing. And she had long hair and she'd flip her hair. I'd be right behind her, like 4, 5, 6 years old, trying to mimic her moves. So it was really a beautiful thing. For me, writing the book and bringing my mother to life, for the world to finally meet this woman that they had not met, was very important for me to do. And I guess that's the biggest thing I want people to know, that just because you have a mental illness does not mean the mental illness has you. So it is just as if you have high blood pressure or diabetes. That illness does not make you who you are. You're still a beautiful person. You're still a human being. You still matter. And so that is the reason why I wrote the book, My Mother's Keeper.
And we all matter with that closing. Beautiful. I'm envisioning your mom in those halter tops and that music, just excitement in that living room or in that house, wherever you guys were at. I definitely thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Yes. Thank you.
So Dr. Williams, this has been great.
Thank you. Yes.
High five. High. Well, whatever we want to do, digital high fives. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for opening up about your book. Thank you for just continuing your advocacy, your passion with mental health, and continue to just inspire and uplift and just ignite us, because that's, like you said, all we need is to do is grow from this and stay positive.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to post Dr. Williams' information, her website, her access to her book, so we can just enjoy that. And I appreciate everyone's time. And once again, Tuesday Talks. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.